That smells like big money to me. Give them hell, TK!
All right, let's go.
Oh boy.
Oh, no.
Oh,
No.
So we got a real
No.
big. We got a real big problem. Somebody keeps fucking me here.
Who gives a fuck?
That's an intro, ladies and gentlemen. There may be an audio feed of this. Imagine listening to just that. How great that would be. Better than anything we can produce, I'm sure. We are back without Jeremy Lambert, our fearless leader. Instead, we're at the wheel here, right? I give all the guys StreamYard access. Jensen has it already. Obviously, he's a pro. You know, blue tick and all that stuff. I give Bob the access. You know, he's going to do Brock Lesnar like Funko Pop openings soon on here on the Fightful channel. The official Fightful, not just this stalky distraction one. Today we're headed to the Impact Zone, which to that I say once again,
Who gives a fuck?
but nonetheless, I'm excited. I promise I am. Stephen Jensen, you're actually excited about this. Talk to the people. Tell them about what's going on here today.
Yeah, no, I am happy and excited about this because I really liked Impact Wrestling back in like the early 2000s and even kind of like the mid 2000s. And I still think they're a solid company, but like there's, you know, anyone who listens to The Weekender already knows my thoughts on all this. And me and Joe actually talked about it a second ago, but like, you know, people can say what they will about like the current product. Like it doesn't have a whole lot of buzz. They tend to push the wrong people and a lot of people leave and stuff. But back in the days of the matches we're about to watch, like I was really, because I was so anti John Cena back then too, that I was like super rooting for TNA wrestling. You know what I mean? Like I wanted a true alternative, and these guys were giving me a real alternative for like the time period we're going to be watching. So I am excited to watch this again.
It's an interesting playlist we have here. To be clear, these are all matches that were suggested. I know that one of them isn't a classic by any means, but it's such a star power match that I thought would be worth doing for the pot. Bob, you are known as a TNA expert, much as your famed Ring of Honor expertise. You're fired up today. You actually missed me. I'm fired up today, you said, didn't you, Bob?
I did. Yeah, no, I mean, listen, all three of these matches have AJ Styles in them, or two of them do, and the other one is one of the best of all time. So, you know, it's not a playlist, you know.
Yeah, that's fair. Immediate factual error there from Bob, but no, what is what it is. Without Jeremy, we're going to get stuff wrong. I am going to share the playlist in the chat. It is also, of course, in the description of this video. You can pull that up. We've got 3 matches. I think the run times can be like an hour and change, maybe an hour and 10, hour and 20 around there. And we'll be hitting play shortly. I'm going to give everyone a moment to fire that up, and then we'll talk a little bit while the matches are going on about the context surrounding those matches, the events they were on, if you guys have any memories, the usual stuff, just instead in the world-famous Impact Zone. Now, are all these matches actually from the Impact? I don't think the first one is. No, in fact, only one of them is, in fact. So, there you go.
Yeah, I was going to say the first one might have been in Nashville in the Asylum. I can't remember, though.
Yes.
And then
the main event of this, the first in time, but I've like placed it as our main event because I sense it's the best match. Yes,
gotcha. The earliest.
Yes,
yeah, I see
absolutely.
what you're saying. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, it's cool because like I got to when I lived in Nashville, I went to quite a few wrestling shows at the fairgrounds, which is like that's like the place, like the Impact, the original Asylum or whatever. So like it's pretty cool. It was a great venue. They recently like changed it to like a racetrack or something.
Yeah.
But I have fond memories of that venue and stuff. So
well, it was really interesting. And again, we're going to play in a moment here, but just quickly, and Bob and I will maybe get into this as we go because I know Bob's a big fan, like I am. Jeff Jarrett's podcast has done a fabulous job detailing the early days, especially. But we will get into that. Let's first hit play on this thing. So match 1 of TNA Filth, the official supercard, is AJ Styles, Booker T, and Christian from Bound for Glory, I want to say.
Yeah.
Bound for Glory 2008. We're going to hit play in 3, 2, 1, play. Here we go. Now, this match stood out to me. A pal of mine suggested it. I mean, in terms of like on paper, good Lord, man. I mean, 2 of these guys are still 2 of the best wrestlers in America, in my view. So there's a lot here. And obviously, Booker T is Booker T. It speaks for itself. So this is quite the time.
And Booker's still doing like a hybrid of like the King Booker and like the Booker T. But he's got like Booker T music, but like King Booker mannerisms.
Yeah, which I don't think was anyone's choice but him to pop himself, to be honest. But which I respect, in a lot of ways. But
I think
he had an interesting run, right? He's one of the guys that is famously pointed to as like he didn't really care, which I get it. He's explained it as he initially cared and then he saw what was going on and was like, I'm good, taking it easy. He was WWE champ real shortly before going to TNA. Or like world heavyweight champ, big gold. Bob, do you know the timeline on that?
I mean, he doesn't become King Booker till like the summer of 2006, and I think it takes till like 2007 till he actually wins the title. So yeah, I mean it's
and he joins Impact at the end of 2007. So there you go. It's a tight turnaround there.
Yeah, because he had lost the title, and then I think his last WWE match was Triple H, and he was still King Booker, and then he left to TNA, if I remember correctly. He was like a surprise for one of their events shortly before this. Like she was like a mystery opponent of some kind, I remember. But it was like a really badly kept secret. They like leaked it on their website or something that day, I remember.
Yeah, because he's actually, and here's the thing, folks, TNA history maybe it's spotty, but he's quite deep in his run here because he comes in as a babyface and he works that program with Joe, where I think that's what turns him heel is the way that Joe treated him. I want to say that's what happened there. But they had the famous cage match, which had like a weird finish, and it was all very, it was puzzling. It was interesting stylistically, but I think this is like 11 months into his run. Interesting.
Oh, is it really? Okay.
Yeah, because I think, he's clearly a heel here. So we'll see how that plays out in the match. AJ, I believe, has just kind of become like serious singles wrestler AJ Styles again around this time because he'd been doing a lot of, Russo shtick before this.
Well, he was a member of Christian's Coalition. Yeah. Like he was like his like lame like sidekick. Yeah. I don't know why they did that. Like I mean like Christian, to be fair though, Christian was one of, if not like the first, like I remember when he left the WWE, it wasn't like he got fired, I don't think, at the time. Like he decided, I want to,
Ironically, he was very much the stuff we see today. Back there, like he was kind of an outlier. It's interesting to look back on because he's there now, hilariously. But there you go.
Yeah, well, it's funny with Christian too because he wanted to stay, but like they didn't see him as anything more than just a mid-carder. Like even to the point where he's just like, "Hey, upgrade my travel, and maybe I'll even stay," and they wouldn't even do that for him.
Well, yeah, wow. I because I remember he had like a pretty cool rivalry brewing with Cena before he left, but then they turned it more into like a triple threat thing with like him and Jericho.
Yes,
and then it was also
left soon around that time.
Yeah, right. Very, very true. That's something people forget about Jericho. I think there's been like pockets of years of his career that he wasn't around, similar to Danielson to a degree and stuff. For like. Or even like Punk, but different scenarios and different time off. But like, I think there's something to that. Like, I think there are some wrestlers that should just take like a year or two off every now and just recharge their batteries and just come back. It's gonna elongate their careers.
I think with the network, you could kind of, not now because the talent pool was shrunk, but when they had like every wrestler in the world, you could have done a lot with that idea where you sent guys away, but they were still on the network for the hardcore fans. But the general audience didn't have a clue where they were at,
Yeah.
Could have done a lot with that, but that's another topic for another day. 2008 Bound for Glory. I'm going to pull up this show here. Bob, you're a famous fan of TNA Bound for Glory 2008. Any memories?
I don't have any memories. No, I wasn't watching TNA anymore at that point. I believe it's at the Sears Center, though. I'm almost certain it was at the Sears Center.
Yes, it is, Bobby. The
Now Chicago?
Arena, isn't it?
Yeah. Which
let's see what house they did here, Bob.
Yeah, they didn't fill it like AEW does.
It's still 5,000 for TNA. I think was one of their better attendance, I would guess. Main event of this show, Sting versus Samoa Joe. The famous match where poor Samoa Joe nearly killed himself by doing that dive through the arena. Remember that deal where he does the big leaping leg drop thing?
No. Yeah.
brutal spot, which Joe, he recently explained didn't hurt him nearly as bad as the Myth is, but still, it's a famous match for that. It's wild, man. Look at this card here. You got this match, followed by Kurt and Jeff, followed by Sting and Samoa Joe. Star power you can't argue with, right? Any memories this time, Jensen, where it's kind of, they're very much established. Stars are all over. Look at that from AJ. Stars are all over the place, but they're trying to kind of make the puzzle fit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, like, I do remember, I know we just kind of, that, moonsault from AJ to the outside.
Yeah.
I had an advertisement. It might be a little bit off from you guys timeline-wise.
Fine.
But I do remember one of my main things during this time or around this time was definitely like AJ taking a back seat to a lot of these guys.
Yes.
And like I always remember it was frustrating because AJ was so clearly from literal day one of TNA that like build around this guy. Like if you're going to bring in other guys that are established, like that's fine. But like AJ has to be on the same level or better. Like you can't, and they did way too much of bringing in other people and then like pushing down the people that like they were building that they're building around up to that point. But star power wise, like you definitely can't deny it. Like you said, like if there was any wrestling fans out there that weren't watching TNA before, you look at a card like this and you're like, oh, I recognize everyone on the show. Like you might actually buy the pay-per-view when you might not have before. So like it made sense, but it also was a little frustrating.
Right. And that, you know, I'm going to bring it up consistently. And if you're a big TNA guy in the chat, I'm sorry, I know I'm an asshole, but it fascinates me because so many of the ex-WWE guys talk about how whether you like the product or not, TNA's main issue was promotion. Mm-hmm. And when I look at this pay-per-view that has the lineup I just read to you guys, sold 35,000 pay-per-views. Now, look.
It was probably only like $20.
Right. And I'm not trying to overstate it, but like that is insane. Like to have that level of talent and do that number, there's an issue somewhere within that system. You know, like there's something's gone wrong there because we see the numbers today. And again, it's different. They do 4 pay-per-views, AEW does, etc., etc. 35,000 is not a good number. It just isn't. So that's something that always fascinates me. What's the sad irony is, SP3, if you would like to join us on this program, I'll give you a link. You're more than welcome, my friend, in the chat.
Degrassi Dudes rules.
My God. I commented on one of you guys were doing that show and I commented via Twitter and it popped myself tremendously because I was sitting there listening and I was like, I have no idea what these guys are talking about.
Dude, we've had multiple people say that. Like, I don't know if y'all know Anthony, podcaster. He told me the other day, he's like, man, I listened to you guys talk about it. He's like, I've never seen the show, and I'm just sitting there laughing the whole time. He's like, I don't even know what y'all are talking about. So
tremendous.
Appreciate that.
What was the deal? We were talking about the TNA. Oh yeah, AJ. The sad irony with AJ is they kind of turned the corner on his usage just before Hogan gets there, which is the real bitter pill of it all, right? Like, because he wins the belt sometime next year after this, that is. He has it through to the end of the year, and then Hogan comes in, and all of a sudden he's Ric Flair. What a shame. Like, they actually seem to have figured it out with AJ, and then the whole promotion gets uprooted. It's a bummer.
Bob, have you seen that stuff, like the AJ Little Nate era?
I mean, I've seen clips of it. I haven't seen, like, full episodes. It doesn't seem like the best way to use them.
Yeah, it wound up not being. The way that they did it, if I remember correctly, too, it was like, it was right when they debuted on trying to go head to head with Raw on Mondays. Mm-hmm. And they tried to make it this big show that like, it's like, oh, anything could happen. The Nasty Boys are here, you know, like, oh, great. But also like Ric Flair was popping up and all of a sudden Ric Flair is helping AJ Styles win the world title. So now AJ Styles is not only a heel now, he's also now trying to be like Ric Flair. And it just didn't make any sense.
No.
Yeah. Even with all the talent in the world, it was a lot of these stories were just weird. And when it go back to your point about the promotion earlier, like the lack of promotion for the company, I remember it was a big talking point like years ago with like amongst fans about how Hulk Hogan, like he would do public appearances and not mention TNA once. Like he'd be out there and they'd be like, it's wrestling star Hulk Hogan. And he'd be like, yeah, brother, got like all this going on, like doing this, showing up there, Brooks got this going on. And you're like, all right, cool. And he would never mention Impact, but like he was like in charge of Impact and just not even telling people about it.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk on the Jarrett did a pod about the famed January 4th episode that featured the Nasty Boys, as you just mentioned there, and all that good stuff. And they talk about how they built they bought a billboard for the January 4th date, and Conrad's like, did you guys not think that maybe you should have instead bought one for your like weekly Thursday time slot? And he's like, we did think that. Yes, we were not allowed to do that. We had to do Monday.
Dude,
I don't know, man.
Some of that. So I need to listen to more of that podcast because everything I've listened to has been great. I just haven't like taken the time to like fully listen to all of it. But like I heard a clip of something kind of similar where Jeff Jarrett was talking, or Conrad was like grilling him about like, how are you going to be out there promoting Hulk Hogan versus you when he wasn't under contract? Like early TNA, you know, it was the same kind of concept though. Just like they had ideas, but like nothing was like set in stone, and they just like for whatever reason, just like really obvious moves you shouldn't make, they were making. Yeah, like you just said, like why would you not be promoting the weekly Thursday shows on billboards? Like it doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, Bob talks about it a lot. Like it's very clear Jeff hasn't learned anything, right, Bob? Like you say this, and like he doesn't seem to grasp where it went. He team is just like, oh, Hogan fucked up. I don't know. It was fine. Yeah, it's funny.
But if he showed up with the new promotion, I mean, now's the time. Like if someone's gonna come up with a new promotion, like this is the best time there's ever been. I know there's a lot of memes about it, but I would love to see Jeff Jarrett give it another shot, man.
It would be us three. We'd be the first ones to podcast about that shit. And we would agree it would be bad immediately, but we'd pretend it isn't for our fun.
I mean, you know, Jarrett will put the belt on himself immediately.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Build to a big match with Triple H.
Yeah, Triple H versus Jeff Jarrett. Eric Bischoff, special ref.
Oh, there you go. Now we're talking. As to be said, AJ Styles is so damn good in this match. I mean, obviously, right? But he's proven everything you said there, gents. It's like, you can have all the stars you want. You got to push AJ Styles.
Yeah. Well, and right there, he just did like that sweet flying armbar. Like that's, you know, I love seeing stuff like that. I love when Nakamura does that. He does that move.
He does. At the end of this this first match, the playlist will roll. But I think in case, like in the chat, I guess we can let it roll. But just chat, if you need a timestamp, I'll post one for you guys. So that's probably the best way to do it because then everyone can get caught up regardless.
Did you guys see Booker T hit that rock bottom type move just then?
Yes, indeed.
Oh man,
that's incredible. God, that rules.
I watched Survivor Series. My monthly WWE watch has been finished. I watched my pay-per-view. So,
and I was sad last night. I don't want to get into it now, but I watched Raw, and I can't tell you how low my like I just wanted to have fun, you know, and tweet and just have fun. Like, I went to tweets and stuff, and like it was just so miserable, man. It bummed me out. I was texting Bob, the Oracle of Wrestling, and I had, you know, Devin Howes. We were talking about like we were just devastated at how bad it is. It's brutal, man. I don't know.
I definitely didn't watch it. I saw on Twitter that like Austin Theory got a title shot because I guess he had the egg. I think that's all I. Oh no, and I saw the video of Seth Rollins getting tackled. I did see that.
Yeah.
But that was I couldn't tell you anything else. I'll tell you what, I'm pretty happy. You know what I mean? Pretty happy guy. Like really enjoying the world of wrestling. You know what I mean? Like pretty positive wrestling fan over here. So I'm just whatever.
You're in a better place with it than me, where like you're much further into your kind of, you know, separate relationship with the WWE.
Yeah,
because I think, like, I share your sentiment, but I'm a couple of years away from getting as far distance as you are, which seems much healthier. You seem a lot healthier for it, because I still kind of like want it to be good.
Sure.
Whereas you seem to have lost all, which I am on the way to.
Yeah, that's exactly. I made the comparison with like my Minnesota Vikings all the time. Like I get frustrated about the Vikings because like I want them to win. Like I like, you know, when every game has been close this year. When we lose, I get really angry about it. But like I'm still emotionally invested. Like I want them to be good. I want them to win the Super Bowl. when I watch the WWE, I just like legitimately don't care about any of it.
Yeah.
Like it's just gotten to the point, and I was a loyal fan for like literally 30 years. It's one of those things. It's like if I can get out of the water, like anybody can. Like I'm surrounded by WWE memorabilia in my office right now, dude. I'm surrounded like all the stuff that I love, man. Like I've got all, you know, but like it's just over. It's different. It's the game. The game has changed. But
I just think what amazes me, and I wasn't fully like I hadn't fully accepted this until last night. I think it's currently worse by a distance than it was even like 4 years ago, which is kind of nuts because 4 years ago the general sentiment wasn't positive either. But like, I think it is ice cold now. Like Jack mentions in the chat, the crowds now, oh my, they just sit there dead silent. I can't believe it. It's insane, brother. They had like 4,000 people there last night in Barclays Center.
You said 4,000?
Yeah,
That's
like the you know, like hard camera side is always empty.
Yeah,
it's Barclays Center the day after a pay-per-view. It was empty.
Yeah,
wow.
It's
and they weren't
stunning,
even
man.
piping noise in because they were doing that.
Oh, yeah, they were piping it. Yeah, but
they were piping noise.
You can tell when, right? Like you can feel it
when the crowd's going like,
oh, shit.
You know,
and this match kind of rules.
yeah, this match is great. So we're not even talking about this match.
It is what it is.
But yeah, it's funny because when every now and then, like on like the pay-per-view, for instance, it happened multiple times where like there was all these chants for certain wrestlers, but they show the crowd and nobody's moving or saying anything. Like it's very obvious what they're doing. But
yeah,
unprettier off the second rope, that was nice.
Yeah, that you're going to get to the finish in a second, Jensen, and I think they may have got that the wrong way around. The unprettier should have been the finish. That looked awesome.
Oh, nice ass kick off the top, though.
Just the way he went for the cover, it lacks some urgency, you know? Kind of flat.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm a few seconds behind you guys. You know, underrated move though, and I understand why you stopped doing it. It's pretty dangerous, but that Harlem Hangover was one of my favorite like finishers ever that Booker used to do.
Yeah, it's awesome. All right, we'll be coming on our second match here, guys.
Let me know when you want to start that match. I'll do the 3-2-1 on that one too.
Okay, let's do that. I wasn't sure what's the best way to do this. Just let the people, the new folks here. I'm gonna hit pause when it starts, and then we'll start fresh as a family. Okay.
Cool.
Now we're at the second match of the playlist. For those of you that have just got here or whatever, we're watching Kurt Angle vs Samoa Joe, TNA Genesis 2006. The full match is on YouTube. You can pull it up, or you can click the playlist that's in the bio. Jensen, count us down, pal.
Oh, 3, 2, 1. Hitting play now.
Wow. You're going to do every one of those now. You was really fired up about that, man. That was awesome.
Well, I didn't hear what you said on at first. I like just didn't understand what you said. then everyone was looking at me, and I figured that you said countdown. So
he was like, let me count this next one. Then I was like, okay, Jensen, count it down. He was like,
want to hear the really sad thing about that is I missed the play button when I said that, so I'm still going to be a couple seconds behind you guys.
I do that all the time. It's very embarrassing. Now, this is, I think, genuinely, this is the height of TNA's hype. I don't think they ever got hotter than they were for this particular match. Kurt brand new, Joe undefeated, all the above. This was a moment in time, right? Bob, you probably listened to Jeff's pod about this, maybe. Like, talk a little bit about the memories of this. I don't know what your timeline was on watching, but any memories of this whole scene?
Yeah, no, I wasn't really watching TNA, regularly, but I was hyped up for it because, I was watching, Samoa Joe back when they were on Fox Sports Net. I would watch them pretty regularly. And, obviously Kurt Angle I'd seen a lot of. And I didn't really, that was kind of still the early point of like me following wrestling on the internet. So I didn't like know where to go seek it out or whatever, but I was interested in the result. I read like recaps of it and stuff. And one of like the few true, I think, dream matches of that time. Yeah. Those didn't come around often like they do now.
It's really interesting too, because, and that's a great point, Bob. It's worth noting how unique a moment this is in terms of like internet buzz too, because Samoa Joe is he's kind of at this time like the face of that fandom. Like he's been the Ring of Honor champion. He's this guy that you want to see wrestling the big titans of the industry. That's what made the Kenta Kobashi match so iconic, because it was like, here's our guy against, the guys that basically we aspire to. That's what it basically was.
Yeah.
Kurt Angle was that time saying because he'd been a WrestleMania main eventer, and that was this year and stuff. So I know you're absolutely correct. It was a real dream match.
Yeah, and I think they did a good job building it too. Like it wasn't that hard to build, I don't think, but
simple,
screw it up. Like the headbutt is an iconic thing, and yeah.
Yep. Jensen, memories of this, pal?
Yeah, like, I mean, especially with Angle coming in, that was such humongous news when he entered Impact Wrestling. And then, like Bob just mentioned, that headbutt, that was possibly peak interest TNA, like when that moment happened. And you're right on the money also about Joe being ROH's guy. And on top of that, like the wrestling community, like I think a lot of people got behind him too, because like he looked different too. Like he wasn't, a lot of people were like, well, he's never going to make it in WWE because Vince is going to think he's fat or whatever. And that was like, who cares? Like, look at what he does. Like, what's it matter what he looks like? And he changed a lot of stigmas about that, I think, for future guys too. So that, there was a lot that kind of went into this, and in the intrigue too of like, because Samoa Joe's undefeated going into this match, right? In TNA. Yes. So you have undefeated Samoa Joe versus Kurt Angle, who's hands down by far the biggest name, biggest star this company has to date. And in his prime still. Like, people don't realize Perk Angle, as people call him, like that was top tier Kurt Angle for his career.
Yeah, he wasn't watched, but it's just, I think the other key factor is, you mentioned, like, Joe being Ring of Honor's guy. It's really important that the Ring of Honor audience and the smart fan also really admired Kurt Angle. He wasn't I mean this with love because I like both guys, but like Batista and Cena were very much, they were like traditional WWE top guys. They were manufactured. The smart fan viewed Kurt Angle as one of the best wrestlers in the world. Now they were getting to see him in a setting that wasn't WWE. There was a lot here. I think what makes this match particularly interesting is they kind of, I mean, it's a dream match, but they don't really wrestle this thing for star ratings. They kind of just kick the shit out of each other here from memory. I mean, we're going to watch it here and let's see it. We'll let it play out, Bob, right? You're good at that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you're right about that. Like, the Kurt Angle was somebody who was ultra over with the WWE audience, but also had the respect of all the all of the internet wrestling or YouTube wrestling community, whatever you want to call it back then. Like, and I remember being real surprised when he got announced, because he signed with TNA, like, it felt like right away. It was like there was hardly any break between him leaving the WWE and coming over here. And I've said it 1,000 times, like, over the years, a lot of people have, but at this time, I also would have really liked to see Kurt Angle fight in the UFC. Like, this would have been the time to do it, and he was really close to doing it, but it never worked out. So
would have been interesting. It certainly would have been interesting. And you're right, it was close. Look at the explosion on that suplex.
Overhead, belly to belly.
Good Lord, man. Joe was always one of those big guys that could really bump too.
Yeah. And Kurt Angle is one of the few guys too up to this point in Joe's run that, like, it's believable that he would be able to do this to him. Also, like, most of Joe's run up to this point was like X Division and like smaller guys, and like there wasn't a whole lot of guys like really getting a whole lot of really good offense in on him, but like you immediately believe, well, if anyone's going to be throwing him around, Kurt Angle,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you talk about legitimate. Kurt is the definition of that in wrestling, right? I mean, people can look at muscle guys and all that stuff. Kurt is real legitimate. He's an Olympic gold medalist, man.
With a broken freaking neck.
There you go. Yeah, Kurt's he's a fascinating kind of. I've often like struggled with where I have him. Like, some people think he's the best wrestler ever, and I've always that to me is like I get scared, I back off because I'm not that big of a fan. But like when you see him in this setting and he looks like he's gonna rip someone's head off, the appeal is obvious. I get it, Oof. Good Lord.
If he would have been having these matches like for like he was in Impact for what, like 7-8 years, something like that.
Long time, yeah.
If he would have been having those matches in front of like way more audience, like if it would have happened, for instance, on WWE television, I think he'd rank a lot higher. Just a lot of people didn't even know he was doing this stuff, so a lot of it just doesn't get brought up in conversation. Right. Outside of like the big ones that everyone knows, like the Samoa Joe type stuff. But pretty much all of his matches, even his matches with Sting were good, and like Sting was limited then.
And that kind of pairs with the other part of it, which is like, because none of it really shifted business in a major way, it can be easily kind of just dismissed, right? Which isn't really fair to Kurt, but like this match we're watching now, as far as I know, is one of their biggest drawing matches ever. And I think their actual biggest is the lockdown match in 2008, I want to say.
Between the two of them?
Yeah, I believe so. The problem is that they do like the original trilogy between these two. They do it 3 months in a row. Like they don't give it any time to kind of. They just go, okay, that match worked. Let's do it again next month and then again the month after that. And naturally, you know, what do you follow it with? That was their problem, and unfortunately, they could have got a year out of that story. Instead, they did the first 3 matches and they went back to it eventually. Because you'll remember this, gents. Like the whole discussion was Joe should have won the belt a lot sooner, like much sooner than he did, and that's a big debate. And you know. Is what it is, but this match is it's a snapshot in time for sure.
Unfortunately, Impact / TNA historically has had that problem. Like they'll just wait too long to pull the trigger on people. Like, and by the time they do, it just doesn't mean as much. And I agree. Like I remember there was a big push for Joe to get the title before that. There was there's something else I was going to bring up, but it'll come back to me. Kurt Angle is leaking there in the ring.
So this is what I was kind of alluding to earlier. This is not the let's show how good we are at wrestling and get 5 stars. This is pretty violent, right? Which I love. I mean, I think to me, that's the perfect vibe for these two. You don't want to see them trading holds for long, you know? I mean, they can do that, but that's not really the appeal, is they're both ass kickers.
Yeah. I don't remember how much longer after this was. Oh, we just lost one.
Bob's enough.
So he saw the color. He's like, oh, man. She's watching Raw. Like, people are bleeding out here.
Fair.
But I don't remember how much longer after this it was, but I remember, like, you know, this was, everyone was, like, super hyped on, you know, this and the realism and, like, the kind of the MMA type stuff when you talk about, with, like, with lockdown and all that. But then I remember at a certain point, Jeff Jarrett started pretending to be an MMA fighter. Yeah. Remember that? And I don't know why they did that, but I remember getting like really sour on Impact then. I just remember being like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. And it's just, you know, it's a really tough thing. Like having variety on your show without doing stuff that actively takes away from other stuff is really hard. I think we're both fleet guys, you know, but AEW struggles with it sometimes, right? Where it's like, hey man, maybe you don't need this backstage skit like immediately after a career-ending match. Maybe give it like a, you know, it's a real thing. It's something they struggle with. Bob, you okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Is your video still playing?
Yeah, it didn't go out, so we're good.
Okay, good.
Cool.
Good. Yeah, I think the Jeff MMA stuff's a couple years because I think that's like Hogan time. I think that's when he's a heel and there's all that, you know.
But it was later. But you just reminded me with like kind of the because like kind of the you could tell the writing was on the wall to a degree that, you know, because another thing people don't really probably remember about this time was as TNA was getting bigger and they were drawing like, you know, 1 million viewers a week or whatever on Spike TV. That was when the UFC was like really blowing up, and that was the lead-in. Like they were always programmed next to each other, as so like the UFC was like smashing it, and Impact was getting a lot of the crossover for that on the same network. So I think when you see these kind of matches with like Joe and Angle, it's like a lot of the fan base I think watching this wanted to see more of like an MMA, like kind of hybrid work shoot type style of match as well. But it's like Jeff Jarrett was just a really weird person to choose to do that. But these two guys is perfect for something like that.
Well, they did. So, you mentioned it, and it's what reminded you of the Jeff stuff. The lockdown match was basically an MMA. That was their take on MMA. And Kurt said himself, like, there were flaws to it. Like, they used the ropes and shit, which he said he regrets, you know. But the idea was bold. And it worked, right? To an extent. It did their best number. They involved some MMA fighters. I think they included Marcus Davis and Frank Trigg on the build, which is like hilarious to look back
Frank
on.
Trigg looks exactly like Kurt Angle.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, they did like a sports presentation and it drew a good number. They never did it again.
Did you say Marcus Davis? Was Marcus Davis a part? I completely forgot all about Marcus Davis, dude.
The Irish hand grenade, bro.
Yeah, what a throwback.
Yeah, he was a good action fighter, man. He had some good fights.
Yeah, no, yeah, the Irish hand grenade, man. I do.
Mhm.
I definitely remember. I just that name has. I haven't heard anyone say that name in like 10 years. It feels like.
Telling you, man, out like to the generation of MMA, and I'm sure you watched it too. I never realized while watching it how forgotten a lot of that shit would be, man.
Yeah.
I talked to my friend who's a big MMA fan now, and I don't watch as much now. And I was saying names that are like Chris Lytle. I said to him the other day, and
Yeah,
he's like,
sure.
he had
Lights out.
no clue what I was talking about. I was like, brother, he was like the action fighter. He won like every award over and over again. Anyway, we'll do that show another time.
Yeah. Man.
Different time, brothers. It was
Chris
different
lights
time.
out Lytle.
Yeah. This is a hell of a match. I like this match a lot.
Yeah.
I really do. The
Yeah.
visual of Kurt bleeding, it's just there's something to it.
You probably can't feel a damn thing out there either. The guy's just floating
Yeah.
out there.
I'm sure he felt that knee.
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, Joe definitely hit him snug with that. Look at, good lord. Yeah, Joe must rank high on like the list of guys you'd rather not have a professional wrestling match with, right? He seems like he kicks the shit out of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
Seems
actually just
bad.
talking about that the other day about I don't know if you're familiar with who Justin Kyle is on the indies. Does a lot of ICW,
not,
no holds
no.
barred.
I've heard the name, but I haven't watched him work.
He comes out to Vanderlei Silva's Sandstorm and wears like the Pancrase logo on his knee pads and stuff. And he just comes out and just beats people's asses. And it's tremendous. And I was actually just having that conversation the other day with somebody. They were like, I don't know how it came up, but it was like, who's the last wrestler like you'd want to ever have to fight? And I was like, I wouldn't want to fight any of these guys, but like Justin Kyle is probably the first one that comes to mind for me just because
Yeah.
it was like completely insane. But yeah, like Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle, that's short list, right? Kurt Angle is probably all time
Yes.
probably the worst one you could
Mhm.
fight because by all accounts, right? Like he beat Brock backstage from like what
Mhm.
I mean, you know.
That's fucking insane.
But it's like it makes sense. Olympic champion. Now Brock never went to the Olympics, but like you know,
Right.
national champion, he potentially could have. But like
Yes.
people don't understand like what even like Henry Cejudo in MMA, like he's cringy and that's his gimmick and stuff. But like that guy legitimately won a gold medal. Like that's so
the thing
insanely
with
hard to do.
The Brock thing is crazy to me. Not like I completely believe it for the reason you just said, but like think of where Kurt was at in his life at that time, you know?
True.
Brock goes on to win UFC heavyweight title a few years after that. Like it's craziness.
And it just makes you think, like, because they wanted Kurt Angle to fight Kimbo Slice, I think, on like the
God
Ultimate
bless.
Fighter or something. And it's like, why would
Imagine
you
the
have to fight
rating
this
that would have done, man.
Oh yeah, I remember Roy Nelson and him did like a huge rating
Yeah,
on,
it did, yeah.
Tough, but yeah,
That was the worst matchup for Kimbo in the whole house. Tremendous.
yeah, for
Which
sure.
was the point, I know, because the other coach picked it, but it was just hilarious to me. Spike TV must have been devastated, right?
Yeah, well, because I remember his reveal was like the whole cast was already there, and they're like, we got one surprise, and like he walked in, and everyone's like, oh shit, Kimbo's on this.
Mm-hmm.
But then they matched him up with, because I remember Roy Nelson from the IFL, him and Ben Rothwell were like the two guys that like came from there, and so like I figured that Roy Nelson was going to destroy him because like I'd seen him actually fight people before, and I'd just seen Kimbo fighting like
and that
randoms.
was before that Roy fell in love with just like eye for eye right hand. Like he used to be a great grappler, and he would
yes,
different.
Exactly. But just the idea that like if what Kurt Angle says is true, and Dana White actually was gonna make him like earn his way into the UFC through the Ultimate Fighter, it's like that's insane. Like this guy won an Olympic medal. Like just put him in there against you let James Toney fight Randy Couture. Like
that was a mistake. Yeah.
And years later, you let CM Punk fight. I mean, Kurt Angle wasn't qualified. Like get the hell out of here.
That counter back to the ankle lock is awesome, man. It really is great. Bob, you enjoying this, pal?
I am. This is great, man.
You've seen this before, right?
I have, yes.
Yeah. This feels like the TNA match most people have watched, I think, honestly. That's probably not statistically true. It's probably like a knockouts match or something. But, in terms of like wrestling dorks like us.
The highest viewed match in TNA wrestling history is actually, it was Brooke Adams versus somebody. I can't remember who.
There you go.
There, yeah.
Nailed it. There you go.
Brooke Tessmacher.
Now, I will say, Kurt putting the straps back up to take him back down is borderline experimental. I don't know if I think that's good, bad. I don't know what I think of it. Bob, what should I think of Kurt Angle just doing what he just? Because that seems like I don't know.
He probably doesn't have to do it. Probably doing a little too much.
It doesn't make sense because I see people do that too on like the indies, like who does that? I know Vance Warner does it. There's some people that do like the knee pad up, knee pad down thing. Like they like pull it up and pull it back down to do moves. Like just what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know about that. Now here's the thing. Was that the right call? Steven Jensen, was it the right call to have Kurt Angle break the streak?
At the time, I remember thinking Joe should have won.
Right.
Because it was like that would have really put him on like a next level for everybody. Like especially the casual viewer that just started watching because of Kurt Angle.
It's so hard, right? Like,
yeah.
Kurt says himself that he thinks the actual play was you like let it build. Like Kurt comes in, beats everyone, Joe continues to beat everyone on his side, and then eventually you get to it. I don't know if they had a match hot enough to do that. I don't know, Bob. What do you think? What do you think the play was here?
I mean, I don't think it's terrible. Like I think the post-match stuff, Joe has a little promo, and that helps. Undefeated streaks are tricky though, because I mean, if you don't do it here, when do you do it? I guess you build it up a little more, but that's something that, like you kind of just said, just seems better on paper usually than actually doing it.
The only way you could have done it is if you'd have got. I don't know where AJ was out on the card, but you probably could have done AJ and Kurt as your first, because that was also a dream match, right? You could have also done that as a big. But I agree with you. I think they did the right thing going straight to this. I think the mistake was doing the rematch so quick. Like, to me, the play would have been, like, okay, let Kurt go for the belt, and then we'll do a slow build to Joe beating him for the belt.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in a year. They didn't have that patience. And I get it, man. You got 12 pay-per-views a year to fill. It's hard.
But they did go through all of like the good ideas, like the real meat of all of this very, very quickly, though. You're totally right about that. Because like fast forward to, at some point, like they win all the like Kurt Angle has all the belts. And like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like they just completely ran out of what to do. They're like, well, we can't just keep doing the same thing over and over. We'll just have someone be the tag team champion and the world champion and everything all at once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's difficult. It's it's tough.
The talent was there though. It's undeniable. Like the actual wrestling talent this company had at this time was like one of the best rosters.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like ever. Yeah. So
it's kind of hilarious. Like when there's like an alternative that's on national television and it shows up, history has taught us that guys from up in the other place will just try to get there because they like need to have a break from that whole life. Like it isn't lost on me. We've done 2 matches. We had Christian, Booker T, Kurt Angle, and it's like I'm disappointed in myself for being surprised that we have so many guys today that are like, I need to get out of here, man. I need to go and do whatever else is happening. Like it's kind of history's taught us that's how it works. Interestingly enough.
Yeah, that's something. I'm not going to sit here in my soapbox and talk about how much I love Cody Rhodes, but I feel like people kind of forget he was the first one, or not the first, but years before, like there was security and leaving the WWE, he went and did it with no indie career. And now a lot of people are getting a lot of credit for leaving the WWE, but they're only leaving after there's this really well-established alternative that they can go to. When Cody did it, there was not that. So
now here's the question though, Steven Jensen. I want to like Cody Rhodes, and I do like him as like a symbol, seems like a good guy. Are you enjoying what he's doing on TV right now?
Love it. It's the best stuff I've seen in my life. Probably in the history of wrestling.
Fair. Correct answer. Okay. We're going to be coming up to the third match. I said I'm going to, of course, now I have no choice but to pause it when we start so Jensen can do the countdown.
The what?
Good Lord. Good Lord. Let's not christen it that. This is a family show.
Honor is real, man. The honor hour. You guys ready? Do you want me to do the countdown?
Do the countdown. Yes, okay. Jens, do the countdown.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Hitting play now.
Now this one, I have to say, this one I feel like is the most that's like, because I remember last week we talked about this, Jensen, and you said, early days X Division. When I saw this one, I was like, "This." I remember this being a classic for sure.
Yes. And this was also, I think, the most important match for AJ, like maybe in his career, up until obviously he was established, like later on what he's doing recent years. But like, this was something where like AJ had that really short run in WCW as they were going out of business. Like he had nothing to do with that. Like obviously it just, he was new and he was kind of a casualty of being an unknown guy when the company went down. And so I didn't really know how good he was. Like I didn't really know a lot about him. And within like just a couple shows in TNA, they were like, they made sure to be like, hey, this guy is like the best guy we have. And by having him in this X Division title mix, because also at the same time, if you remember, he and Jerry Lynn were also tag teaming around this time too. So he was like all over the card and all different kinds of matches and having the best matches on the shows. So like, yeah. And then like Low Key and Psychosis, of course, legend already at this point. And Low Key, you know, Low Key's Low Key. You're muted, Joe.
Sorry to hear that. Has to be said that, you know, here we are in 2002. It's probably not ideal that when we watched the 2008 match, we all agreed that AJ, they still hadn't quite figured out what they had, because they had figured it out here, as you said. They immediately made the move. Something got lost along the way there. I don't know what, but something did. It's a shame.
Well, that's the thing. Like, even the, you know, Fox Sports Net era, like, they're making Styles and Daniels and Joe look like kind of big deals. And then, you know, 4 years later, none of them are still champions. Yeah, you're right. And you know, AJ won the world title within like the first year of the company being around too. So it's like he was like a multi-time X Division champion, multi-time tag champion, world title, everything. And then there was just like a lull where they didn't quite know what to do with him, or like other bigger names were coming over and like kind of overshadowing it. But I love that you keep bringing up the Fox Sports Net era, Bob, because I used to race home from school, like when I was in high school, to like watch that on TV, because I loved that show. I thought the presentation was actually pretty cool for like a show that was on in like the afternoon on like a random, but they made it feel like you were watching a sport. You know what I mean? With like the ticker and everything. I thought that was a pretty cool era of Impact. Not enough people talk about that, but like that was a cool time to be a fan. Yeah, again, that's like really what got me into it at first. Like once they moved off of there, I wasn't really following them that closely anymore. But yeah. So you bailed cool. Once they got to Spike TV. You were like, now everyone's watching it and I'm out of here. Yeah, I think, you know, at that point I was just more into like WWE in general. Yeah, so
kind of
like,
bootlicker.
Yeah,
that's fair. Oh, hey, fair enough. Hey, you were just looking for some ruthless aggression. I get it. It's all good. Yeah. I loved it too back then too, for what it's worth, man. Like, yeah, there was a lot of good stuff back then in the WWE.
Yeah.
We've saved Bob. We've saved
by like 2008, I just wasn't really watching wrestling anymore, and then just got back into it by like when The Rock came back.
It's a very common story. Okay. Very common.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. I think the ratings kind of show that exact.
Yeah. Here's what it is.
Psychosis.
Yeah.
Immediately.
He said, "I'm good. Just pay me." Did you guys see the match that Low Key has had announced today?
I did.
It was just announced today?
Yes.
No.
He is. You know the show that Amazing Red is wrestling Malachi Black on, the House of Glory show?
Yeah.
Low Key is wrestling Buddy Matthews on that show.
Oh, I should have guessed. That's who you're.
Yeah. You know what night that is, Jensen? The same night. That is the same night as Final Battle.
So House of Glory might outdraw Final Battle. That'd be pretty wild.
What a way to go out, brother. Low key, just kicking the shit out of them on their last night. Brutal.
And I'm assuming that show's on Fight TV, Hog?
I don't know. I would probably buy it if it wasn't on the same night as Final Battle.
Yeah. Is Final Battle on Fight TV?
It must be, yeah. It must be.
Yeah, I don't know where else it would be. That's probably the best place for it to be honest.
Oh my god.
Good lord. What a bump. I've got to watch Final Battle, but like there is a sick irony in Low Key being the more interesting match to me that night. not happy about it. Makes me feel uncomfortable, you know.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Yeah, Loki's a unique dude for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that how we're gonna describe it? Yeah. Okay.
I've got so many Loki stories. Like,
Yeah.
I've talked about some of them with y'all, I think, off the air before, but like, yeah, it's I think there's a fine line going on with that dude between like what is real and what isn't, and just in general. But
Well, look, I haven't heard all of the stories, but I've heard enough to know that it is what it is. You get what you get, I suppose, as Bob would say. I will say, especially at this time, he is an all-time great in-ring guy. I mean, he was electric, brother.
I mean, especially because this is also, I think I've talked about it on this show, like early 2000s, you know, people are still like all hyped on like the Matrix and stuff like that. And Loki was like out there doing like video game type stuff. Like, I'll never discredit Loki in the ring outside of a few times where I've seen him like just actually kick people in the head like super hard and stuff like that. But you also kind of just got to know that's what's going to happen when you wrestle Loki. Like, it's just, you know, it's like you're gonna... Sorry, go ahead.
Jensen just said, and this is my read on what Jensen just said. You know, I got no problem with anything he's done other than when he violently concussed people.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, I mean, it's almost like accepting a match with Brock Lesnar, though. Like, you know, you're going to get thrown around. Like, you know, Loki's going to kick you in the face. Like, it's just going to happen. Like, there was this one dude, I can't remember his name, but there was this one dude, I remember Loki, the bell rang. Like, the match was, the total of the match was maybe 10 seconds. Bell rings, and Loki just sprint and does one of those Liger kicks.
Yes.
And just knocks the dude out.
I can't remember who it was, but that was like his first match in Evolve, remember?
Oh, was
remember
that what
when
it was?
like Gabe brought him in?
That's probably why it sticks out so much, other than like the kick itself.
Oh man.
That's so funny. But I mean, he's a hell of a performer though. Like, I mean, even to this day, he's had some good matches on VXS, Violence X Suffering promotion. Like, and yeah, I mean, he still pops up all over MLW and whatnot. I'd like to see him. Oh, sorry.
Him and Buddy will probably be good. I just, you know, there's a lot of baggage with it, as you said.
Yeah, it'll be good. Well, and the thing is, too, it's always interesting when he's in there with someone that I think can defend themselves. So, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, like it'd be interesting to see him try that on like Riddle. You know what I mean? Like, okay, you can kick Riddle in the face, but see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, he tends to kind of do it against people that don't defend themselves. So it's like,
I could be completely misplaced. I get the sense that's what this upcoming one is going to be one of those matches where, like, when you see Loki standing next to Buddy Matthews, you're going to be like, holy shit, they're going to look so... I swear, he must weigh, like, 60 pounds more than Loki, right? He has to. He's huge.
Yeah.
Loki's
He's definitely gotten bigger.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, but...
Like any good professional wrestler would.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't judge, by the way. I don't care how they get bigger, just for what it's worth. It doesn't matter to me. This isn't a real competition. This is aesthetic. But like, even like Loki, I think it'd be cool to see him in AEW, like with what's going on. Like, you know, if guys like Homicide can pop up and stuff, like I don't know why Loki shouldn't at least. I might not be the biggest fan personally, but I respect the hell out of what he's done in the ring throughout his career.
Well, maybe Brian wants to wrestle him. If he does, Tony will give him a call, I'm sure.
That's the move right there. Yeah.
I have to say, I had completely forgotten what kind of match this was. This is where like you have to like pin everyone, I think. It's
a double elimination, because I just looked it up because I was very confused.
Fair.
Yeah,
see, like Bob like does. We're just sitting here popping about Loki, and Bob actually understands what's going on. It's brutal, man.
Yeah, I didn't remember that was the stipulation at all for this. Package pile driver, or cradle pile driver, rather. Are you guys on about that point with Jerry Lynn hitting that move? We're about the same? Okay.
Yeah.
So Psychosis is actually out.
Yes. Okay. I guess it's kind of interesting to do it that way.
Yeah.
Different, right? This
match got a lot of buzz. I don't... As I'm watching it, I don't even know if I've ever seen this. But it's one everyone points to. Because I've seen a lot of the big like X Division classics. But as I'm watching this, I don't actually have any recollection of it, to be honest. Yeah.
Bob,
I
have
don't
you
know.
ever watched like your pal Kiwi says in the chat? Have you ever watched, like, they always overcomplicate things. Have you ever seen like their reverse battle royals and that
Yes.
kind of stuff? Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like really bad idea. Like getting into the ring is the match. Like getting be able to, and everyone somehow forgets how to just like slide into the ring the entire time. It's really bad.
Yeah, and I think that's one that Jeff has said on the podcast. Like, oh, it was different, you know. And,
Oh, Jeff he doubles down on it.
yeah.
That's funny. He's such a nice guy too, Jeff Jarrett, that it's like no one wants to be like, dude, come on.
Bro, I'm
Except for
telling you,
Conrad.
Conrad said to him, he goes, when do you think the LOL TNA stuff started? And he's like, probably sometime around 2011. And it's like, what? LOL TNA was like 6-7 years before that. The lunatic, he thinks it was like, oh, I don't know, bless his heart, man.
Funny.
He seems, as you said, I haven't got any interaction, but he seems a very nice guy.
Yeah.
And he just pops me when he doesn't seem to have learned anything, unfortunately. It's a shame.
I like how Impact Wrestling, granted this was uploaded in 2013, but they didn't know how to crop the video into the dimensions of YouTube's video player. You can see on both sides how like there's the black lines there. They didn't.
Oh yeah.
Well, that weird thing happens. It happened on the last match where, like, if you get Impact Plus and you're watching an old pay-per-view, it will just go, like, it'll black out like 6 times during the pay-per-view where they have ads on international TV, and it's
right.
I personally would try to fix that, but I'm built,
Yeah.
you know, just sitting there watching the pay-per-view like, wait, what happened? Oh, never mind. I would love to know that subscriber base, man, because it's definitely higher than Honor Club. Honor Club is like, I had that shit, man. That was, you know, not a lot of people do. You could tell by the lack of conversation about it. So I would love to know the Impact Plus numbers.
I'm gonna look up a specific event and see if they disclose the numbers. Before I say anything, I'm just gonna see.
Oh dear, Jensen's making sure he didn't get sued for what he's about to say.
Wait, what did you say?
I said you're making sure you're not going to get sued for anything.
I'm not gonna get sued. I just want to see if
just check with your lawyer, pal. It'll be okay. It'll be fine.
I don't think the numbers for what I'm looking for is actually going to be disclosed anywhere.
Yeah.
I was only thinking about it because I listened to an interview earlier today with Aaron Carter, the Aaron Carter, and he boxed Lamar Odom earlier this year, and he said he only made $15,000 to box Lamar Odom, which is like insanely low to box somebody. I would expect more money than $15,000 if I boxed like a random person, probably. You know what I mean? Like that's so low. But it just made me think, like, I wonder if like more people bought that boxing match. I watched it live, versus like Honor Club or like TNA's current thing. You know what I mean? It's probably pretty comparable. Like it's just like super low interest.
I mean, wasn't like Honor, like Ring of Honor's biggest pay-per-views, I want to say, did like 3,000 to 4,000.
That's so low.
Am I wrong on that? I could be wrong.
No, I have no idea.
Because if that is true, I wouldn't even want to think what the Honor Club subscriber base is, you know? It must be so low. Like, and look, again, I'm not saying it to be an asshole. I love Ring of Honor, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trust me, I wish all these were doing great buy rates. But it's like I'd bet more people watch the last GCW show on Fight TV than Honor Club and Impact Wrestling's subscriber base combined. You know what I mean? GCW has only been a hot promotion. I mean, it's been around for a long time, but it's really only picked up steam over the last year and a half to where like they're really killing it. So,
okay, so Final Battle 2014 with Jay Briscoe versus Adam Cole as the main event did 8,000 buys. Now, in fear of being dismissive here, I think the promotion has objectively got less popular since then.
I agree.
So we half that for like the most recent pay-per-views. How much of that 4,000 is going to really pay a monthly fee? it's a really low number. Is the point we're getting at here?
Yeah.
I think Impact Plus is higher than Honor Club, but conversation stands.
I don't know what do they charge, because I get it all through Fight, but I don't know what like the actual company charges for the Honor Club.
I want to say it's like $8. I want to say, but
and there was like 4,000 people or so, dude. Less than 1,000 people subscribed to that. I would bet. Yeah, less than 1,000.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Like, I don't know what Impact's numbers are, but they can't get people to spend $1. I mean, I'm not trying to be a dick. It's just the truth.
No, but this is my problem. And we talk about this, like, we all want a third promotion, but like, there are promotions out there that people just make the decision they have no interest in watching, and that seems bad, to be honest with you guys. And I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying it doesn't really bode well for the wider like growth of things, Like you just said it, Jensen knows this, so I'm not telling him because he just pointed out. You can watch every episode of Impact live for like $1 on YouTube. Like, people don't want to, man.
Yeah,
no, because because the thing is, like, there's not people for the most part that are just watching Impact. So it's like you're adding more wrestling to your week, and it just, at some point it does become too much.
Yeah, it's difficult. I don't know what the answer is, and as Jensen mentioned, we're certainly not dunking on the promotions. Like, we get it. It just pops to be like, we all want this other promotion, and meanwhile, the ones that exist, none of us care about. It's not really ideal,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, GCW is lapping. You mentioned it there, like, their hype is on a different level to these promotions. Different level.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they're pretty clearly the number 3 in the US right now. And even like buzz-wise, it's debatable with like, I mean, New Japan is like obviously a bigger company, but like within the US, very little buzz right now, outside of like what they get from also being involved with AEW. But AEW is also spreading that love to like multiple companies. But I mean, I want all these companies to succeed. It was just really evident kind of where Impact's at when I talked about it before. I think it was a big mistake for them to leave Twitch, for a lot of reasons. It was free and they had established like some sort of loyal viewing base over there weekly. And when Kenny Omega showed up, the number spiked big time. Like, I mean, it was probably legitimately like 15 times more people or so. I'm just making a number up, but it was like insanely higher than normal. And they didn't really do anything to like get those people to stay. They just kind of made it more so like an actual star showing up on our show and a bunch of people watched. And then when he's not there, we don't really have someone like that. So just is what it is. It's unfortunate. There's a lot of talent there.
Tough. It's real tough. I don't know what the attendance has been as of late for Impact. I know they did the Samstown shows. Hopefully they did well, but it's been a struggle, and I don't think it's going to get easier anytime soon. Unfortunately, I think clearly they need to reimagine their model and whatever, but they're not going to do that. If we're being honest, they're just going to keep plodding along. So it's a shame, but I guess there's opportunity for someone else. We'll see if that actually happens, but. Man, some of these like pretend national promotions are really struggling, I find. It's a shame.
Yeah. And some of them are, like the NWA, like at least they're attempting to be something different. Yeah. It just isn't really catching on. And like their choices have been suspect, I think, on like who they've pushed.
Right.
And it just doesn't help them, where it's like you might want to tune in and watch the NWA, but then you're like, I have to watch Tyrus heart punch somebody and for 20, like, what is this? But I don't know. It's, I mean, a big part of me honestly thinks at some point Tony Khan's just going to buy all the people that he wants. You know what I mean? It's just going to be like, they're going to have to just open the floodgates to some degree. Because Ring of Honor, like if Ring of Honor, as well as it was established, can be in the position it's in, like, you know what I mean? Like, what's that kind of say for like the future of some of these other companies that are in a similar boat? Yeah,
it worries me. Like, AEW's killing it, But AEW's already got like over 100 guys on their books. You know, it's like, man, it's getting slim, especially with WWE releasing people every other week. It's not good. It's tough. This match is very good when it's Jerry Lynn and AJ Styles.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah. Big shocker. Yeah, really early TNA, these two guys were like ultra instrumental on getting the company like the buzz it had and everything.
Jerry Lynn's just great, man. He really was. He was, you know, saying underrated seems wrong because like people that know, like they get how good he was. He's just kind of, he's pretty selfless, right? You know, like he's not a guy that's trying to be the star out there. He's just a great pro wrestler.
Yeah, it has a lot of like important kind of links to all these companies where like, you know, when he was in Ring of Honor and he won their title, like they needed him at that time. Like they were in like a transition period and because didn't he win the title from Nigel McGuinness?
Yes.
So which that was really I was really surprised that he beat him because McGuinness had been really well built. But it was like it was like no one really got upset about it because it was Jerry Lynn. Like Jerry Lynn and ECW with, of course, the Rob Van Dam matches everybody always talks about. Like in this, you know, really the only place he wasn't a big deal was the WWE. And like I remember him being the lightweight champion with the WWE. But like they didn't really. It was just kind of one of those things. Like that was really the only place he didn't like. He wasn't like really highlighted, I guess.
Yeah.
But he's also a smaller guy in a world full of giants back then, too. I mean,
for sure. And that's a big factor with the success some guys have today. It just frankly wouldn't have been that way if they were around, you know, back then. I agree with Jack's comment here. Guys like Gresham are just a godsend for the industry. And, you know, unfortunately, there's not going to be many guys like Jonathan Gresham in a lot of ways, in a whole lot of ways. But yeah, he's awesome.
I'm going to Terminus.
That's gonna be fun.
Here in Atlanta. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna be the fightful presence at the show. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Bob, are you booked for that show?
Not yet.
No. Not really your style. You're more of a brawler, right?
There we go.
Mat wrestling and all that stuff for cowards, anyway.
But I think that kind of stuff. So I was gonna say, like with Terminus and stuff, like, see, that's where it shows that even. Like that may be a better situation for a lot of wrestlers than like an Impact Wrestling or you know, a Ring of Honor or an MLW, even maybe type of situation. These just one-off shows that just get a whole bunch of buzz, and you just get the best wrestlers you can and put on the best shows you can, and hope that it creates enough buzz that you can do another show and then another show, and you know.
There's definitely something to that. Like, I don't think I'm talking out of turn to say that not everyone in Impact Wrestling is being paid like the Good Brothers or like insert name. Like all those guys are basically being paid like indie guys anyway. So it's an exposure thing. It depends how you look at your career, I guess.
Well, and the like more, it's more secure. Like it's, you know you're going to get a payment check for a certain amount of time kind of thing, where the indies, they just might stop booking you and you got to go find somewhere else. But like, for pay scale wise, I'm sure it's similar in a lot of ways. Yeah. You know, there's definite advantages to working there, of course, like the limited schedule. And like you said, you still get a lot of exposure in like the wrestling in the wrestling world, really. But like, when you look at companies like GCW, it just is this perfect example. Like there are, I think, a lot of companies that can be doing similar things to what they're doing, like true independent promotions that, if you're, just you sign on for one show at a time, but like the shows are so good and the fan base builds and just keep coming back,
Absolutely. I think the other thing too is like some of these Impact guys, how do I put this politely? Some of them aren't built to be like hot indie guys either, right? Like some of the guys that left WWE, they're not really, I don't need to name them, everyone knows what I'm talking about. Like there are some guys that are just best as a character on a TV show, and that's fine. And they do that there, and that's good. So
and that's for a lot of reasons. It stylistically and pay wise, I'm sure for some of them, like a Braun Strowman type guy, like I'm sure he's used to making $1 million a year. So he's like, you know, and the indie promoters like, I can't pay you anything close to what you want to get paid because not enough people are going to buy tickets to watch you on the indies because you don't really fit what this company or the style is or whatever. It would have happened with that Jonah dude as well, who I just saw show up in Impact.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a lot of that that are like mainly WW. But here's the thing. That doesn't mean that they can't reinvent themselves and learn and get better and become something big on the independent scene. Like it's just they started with, it's like they started pigeonholed from the sense of like they really have to learn from like almost the very beginning again to reinvent themselves. But they start with a leg up because way more people know them from being on national TV.
See,
so
that's where I feel bad for the NXT guys because it's dawned on me as of late that NXT fame is nowhere near the same as like main roster fame. You know, like if you've never watched, like you're a perfect example. Okay, you don't watch WWE's product, but like you 100% know Braun Strowman is. He was like a top guy for them for years. That's very different to these poor dudes that go into the PC once and get cut. Like they couldn't even get any name value out of it. You know, it's crazy. Honestly, here's a guy that we all like, so I'll name him because he's going to make money anyway. We all agree that Shane Strickland's going to be fine, right? I was stunned when I looked at his social medias, how relatively small the following was, because the truth is he was on NXT when he was his least popular, and he was on the main roster for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's tough. It really is. We underestimate that, those of us in the bubble, I think, sometimes, honestly.
That's a really good point. Because if someone like Swerve, also a lot of people might have been exposed to him but didn't know it was him when he was Killshot Lucha Underground. Yes. Like, you know what I mean? He had this whole other persona that could have made him popular sooner, but like it's like a totally different thing now. Yeah, man. It's like I guess I value it a bit more. I should say I have a kind of a bias almost that I don't know the best way of explaining this, but because I review 205 Live every week for the Weekender, like I'm in the loop of like what those people are doing at least. So like, you know, week after week I'm reading, you know, obviously before it's like, you know, Anthony Henry and Alex Zane, and it's like, hey, like they're still wrestling every week and they're having great matches, just nobody's watching it. So like that's a really, really, really good point you brought up. Like the difference between somebody having the exposure of being on like the main roster versus being stuck in like the NXT system or the Performance Center.
Right.
And
it's very different.
Yeah.
The spiral that I always remember, that spiral tap like landed on, it's like a leg drop, right, Bob? That was terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, that one didn't look great, but you know what? It worked.
That move was very like, even an athlete as great as AJ, man, like you could only guarantee it would land correctly every once in a while.
Yeah.
Now I'm intrigued before we close out here, Bob. We just mentioned him a moment ago. If just imagine you had your dream job of being Braun Strowman's manager, what would you advise him to do right now? Because I was thinking about him earlier, as I often do. Since he has left WWE, I don't think I'm overstating it to say they've legitimately cut like another 25 people. And in the most, like, I don't mean, this sounds brutal, but it's just the truth. With each round of those releases, his name kind of slips further from like the mine. What would you suggest he do, Bob? Because he's in a really interesting place in his kind of wrestling timeline, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, like if he called WWE, he could go back there for probably less money, but like if he's not going to do that, it probably would be Impact, right? Like that's just of the options. Like it doesn't seem like AEW's interested. You know, Ring of Honor's not accepting new people right now, so yeah, it kind of feels like it would have to be Impact.
I mean, look, this is full disclosure. I'm not a big fan of Braun Strowman. If tomorrow Colt Bauer announced he's fighting Jacob Fatu, I would pay every penny in my bank account just to see what the fuck that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, it probably will look a whole lot like Mads Kruger out there with MLW.
Sorry to hear that.
Like, well, dude, one of the crazy thing about that is like because Mads Kruger is it's a lame character on the show, and like he's very robotic and stuff. But on the indies, him as Logan Creed / Cruel, like he's killing it right now on the indies.
I've heard he's
as a completely different guy. Yeah, so it's like I wish they'd let him do that stuff on MLW, but like, yeah. But I, I think that MLW would be interesting for Strowman, like you said, him and Fatu, him and Hammerstone, him versus any like big guy who can work would be would be,
Yeah.
I think, a good. And then like Impact, but Impact would just kind of make it the same thing as like what we've seen with Morrissey, probably just like an unbeatable big guy that, and eventually someone like Eddie Edwards will beat him,
That's an underrated element to those characters. They're really hard to book, man, because the cycle. And I'm not defending WWE on that because like they had many chances to pull the trigger, but once you don't, they're kind of lost. Guys like him, it's very difficult. But we've concluded the TNA show by talking about Braun Strowman. This happens when Jeremy's not here. Not one person commented on my very funny Sting hat. It's a very cool hat.
I like it.
Obviously,
I didn't see that. That's the AEW logo.
Sting. It is, yes.
Hell yeah, I love it.
Well,
I love it, Joseph.
He's a WCW legend. He's a AEW legend. I think he worked for some other company in the middle. We may have talked about a little bit today. Bob, I believe it's the anniversary of Sting's Survivor Series WWE debut. You were there that night. Reminisce for a minute before we leave here.
Yeah, no, it was a great moment. Cool to see Sting. Everyone knew he was going to be there, but it was still cool. And that 5-on-5 match is very good as well. And, we don't need to talk about what happened after that on either front. But yeah.
Very fair. Very, very fair. Okay. Big TNA fans will be delighted with this. We talked over 3 matches for an hour and a half.
3 good matches. Very good matches.
Yeah, they sounded good. Steven Jensen, speaking of things that sound good, promote your many podcasts and all that stuff, pal. Go ahead.
So I know SP3 was in here earlier. Degrassi Dudes every Friday. My Twitch channel, twitch.tv/FightTalk_, and then both of our Twitters. My Twitter is FightTalk_ as well. If you want to check out some good professional wrestling, go to independentwrestling.tv, use code FightTalk, all is one word, no space, put that in the promo code spot. It helps me out a lot when y'all use that. They have like 6,000 shows from like 270 promotions, so I guarantee there's something on there that you'll like if you're a wrestling fan. And Fightful Select Weekender podcast every Sunday. Independent Wrestling, 205 Live, NXT UK, National Wrestling Alliance, MLW, IWTV, a whole bunch of stuff on there. So check that out. Listen to the stuff I got going on. Keep you all updated at FightTalk_. And tonight, 10 p.m., me and Doug, live rounds, RVD Tito for Life channel. So we'll be talking WWE releases, Seth Rollins getting tackled, that kind of stuff tonight. So, yeah.
There you go. Bob?
You follow me on Twitter at RobertO'Neill31. I believe I will be back on here tomorrow for Dynamite pre-show.
I don't know what the search. I don't know. Yeah, there's moving pieces of that, folks.
Yeah, it's fine.
Follow us on the Twitter. But yes, if so, the great Bob O'Neill will be here, of course. Yes. Anything else, Bob?
Nope.
Okay. Well, you already know the deal with me, I think, probably, hopefully, whatever. TNA, was it ever good? Don't know. Don't know if I care. I got a Sting hat on. We watched some matches. We talked about Braun Strowman, WWE, and GCW for the last hour and a half. Hope you had fun. As Bob said, tomorrow is in question. Thursday, the Distraction podcast is definitely not already taped. Bob, would you say that you expect Thursday's show to be a good one?
Yes, absolutely.
Good.
Fun, and people are going to really enjoy it.
Good stuff. So see that. If you see nothing else, that'll be fun. And I'll have because last week, remember I did that thing last week, Jensen, the pop you where I was like, shake hands, but wash them first.
Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this isn't a Ring of Honor show, right? So go cross the line, folks.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving.
There you go. Bye.